because it's telling me my camera's not working.
No, we can't see you, John. We just see the Mary's name.
Yeah, I'll change that, but it doesn't look like my camera's working after all of this.
Does not sound like Mary.
No.
All right, well, let me go ahead and call the meeting to order and see if we can get started. Did anybody start the meeting yet?
No, we were waiting for you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Let me go ahead and call the meeting to order. And let's see, we got to go ahead and approve the minutes. Anybody have any problem with the minutes from that were published in the newsletter?
Negative.
Then let's go ahead and get somebody offer a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
Okay, anybody second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, and the motion passes. The minutes are accepted. Ken, go ahead and give the treasurer's report.
Okay, we started the year out, or this month out with $16,382.85. The school took in $30, and we had somebody pay for dues for $22, bringing $52 in. As I preferenced last month, we had the insurance that we carry, $425 as an expense. We paid for our PO box, which was $188. We paid for the storage unit, which was $46. And we paid Bruce out $23.30 for Torreds for the remote station to put on the cables coming in and out of the equipment there. So we had expenses of $684.13. So the balance in the bank is $15,750.72.
Okay. Everybody's aware about the switch we had to buy?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's see. I don't have an agenda right now because I don't know. Nobody sent me anything that had to be talked about tonight. So I'm gonna go ahead and call for reports. And if anybody's got anything that they need to talk about, go ahead and bring it up. Bruce, you want to go? You want to give a report? Okay.
Okay. We got 3 people who want to be members.
Oh, okay.
I have Adam Zappi. He has no license, so he wants to join. We have Norman Burgess, who's an advance, WA4CHM. And we have James Campbell, a general, KE4FSN. So.
Okay, somebody offer a motion to.
I move we invite them to the club.
Okay, any discussion? Anybody second?
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right.
Okay, Ken, you can let them know they're members.
Okay.
Good. All right, Bruce, you go ahead and do yours.
Okay, this is about the school. Let me, so these are the classes we're going to teach. And we're doing 3 different days for the exam prep, and then the skills seminars are, of course, individual days after that. You could sign up online. So if you go to our website, rarclub.net, you'll see registrations for exam prep and also for the skills seminar. We're teaching the week of September 13th through the 15th, and you can sign up and register online. We put down here a little proviso because we weren't sure what was going to happen with COVID-19. We now know that we're going to have to teach at least September by Zoom. We don't know where we're going to be from there. It depends on what the church has to say about whether we can, whether it's safe, whether we can teach in person or not. Anyway, you could go to these places and sign up online, to register online. You can pay online. And so that's what I wanted to point out to you. Oh, and the deadline for signing up is September 7th at 8 p.m. We are going to have in-person registration at the church as far as I know. This stuff is all kind of up in the air, as you're probably aware, but as far as I know, we'll have in-person registration on the 7th, and at 8 o'clock that evening, we'll close registration.
Okay.
Anybody got any questions?
Just a comment. When you fill out the registration form online, do the submit at the bottom. And the whole reason for that is if you said you were going to pay by PayPal, that takes you to PayPal. Okay. But if you're going to pay by check, it still sends me and somebody else, at least one other person, an email that has all the information that you fill out on the forms. And what I do is that's set up so that I can take, there's a comma separated value line of all the stuff that you've entered. And I copy that and I paste it into the roster for the classes and seminars. And then I convert text to columns in Excel, and voila, I am pretty much done. I didn't have to type your name, your address, your email. So they're probably right since you entered them. And it just saves a lot of work and a little bit of confusion. The bad news is if you're sending check, what that means is you've got to take a piece of blank paper and waste it and put it around the check when you mail it so that it helps hide it a little bit. But other than that, it saves me a lot of work. And the same thing when you renew your club membership, the same thing happens. So appreciate that immensely. And the one last thing on a different topic, if you could change your name to have your call sign at the end, it greatly helps me when I take attendance. So appreciate if you could do that, do a rename, go to the participant screen and click more, and one of the options should be rename.
Okay. I'm at a loss here. I can't tell what's going on with this computer because I can't see my own square saying that I'm on there to be able to change the name. I think the possibility that whatever knocked the internet down around here might have knocked some of my stuff down. So I'm going to have to fly by the seat of my pants on this. Do we have any other reports? Yeah, Ken? Don't forget to unmute yourself. You're still muted. I mean, you're not muted, but you don't have any audio.
Still no audio, Ken.
How about this? That sounds better.
Now you're back.
Okay. I got 3 microphones on them, and 2 of them never work. I'd like to announce that next Tuesday, I'd like to get together again with our Radio Builders Group here in my house in my garage. The only thing I heard, anybody attending needs to have had their virus shots, just for safety's sake. We don't have an agenda yet, but I know there's a number of people out there that have some questions or problems that they would like to bring up and see if anybody else has some input that might lead to a solution for those problems. I will send out an email to the group this weekend, probably Saturday, tomorrow. If you've never been to one of our group get-togethers, send me an email. It's k4zut.ham, and that's at gmail.com. Let me know, and I'll give you more directions or whatever. And I also have some stuff that I really want to get rid of. I got some XM stuff. I got a box of it, and I need the room, so either somebody takes it along or it goes in the trash. And I'd say some of the boxes says that stuff has never been opened at all. It's still in original wrapping. And I think that's about it. I hope we can get together on Tuesday. I'd like to see a whole bunch of people again. it's nice seeing people without a mask on, to see what they really look like. So
It's getting
thank you very
interesting.
much.
Thanks, Ken. It's getting interesting out there. I noticed I went to the grocery this morning, and for the last few weeks, nobody's had masks on. All of a sudden this morning, everybody's got a mask on. So people are starting to get concerned. I also heard today too, I don't know if you all heard it, but the booster shot for Moderna and the other one are going to be ready in the next week or so. So they claim. So I guess we're going to have to go get another shot. All right. So any other business that we need to take care of for the program? If you have anything, let's deal with it. Okay, then I guess I'll go ahead and ask for a motion to adjourn the business meeting. And I'm going to let Ken go ahead and introduce the speaker for the night once we get the meeting adjourned. All in favor? I need a motion to adjourn. Okay.
A motion.
All right. Well, BIZ motion first. So give him the first, you get the second. And all in favor?
There you go.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
Ken. Floor's yours.
Okay. What we have is Fred he's the president of the club now I'm going to how do you pronounce the club, the city here?
Nashua.
Nashua. I always want to say something else. So anyway, they were Club of the Year from ARRL. 2019, was it?
2019 Dayton Hamnation Club of the Year. That's right.
Club of the Year. One of the things that they did is they took a club, less membership, but pretty much the same profile or demographics as we have, and made it a very conscious decision to enroll younger people and to become a more active club. So I think the second presentation that you presented to us earlier, we'll go with that. It's a little more general. It's not quite as specific as the let's get people in the tweens to teens into the club, but let's get more involvement from the community, more activity in the membership and things of that nature. So Fred, take it away.
All right, great. Well, I've been looking forward to talking with you all. Very large club and very maybe only typical from the standpoint that most clubs probably have a range of members that are very similar ages and interests to all of you. So you're typical that way, but atypical in that there's many more of you than most of the clubs I talk to. The average club I talk to maybe has 30 members, and quite frankly is struggling just to keep going. So, and that's exactly what the Nashua Radio Society was like maybe 6.5, 7 years ago. So with that, I'm going to tell you the story of how we went from there to where we are today and some of the things that we did and learned along the way. This will work best if you have thoughts or comments, if you bring them up as we go and talk about them. And, you know, hopefully that you all will enjoy this. So let me go ahead and get everything ready to go here. I think, you know, I'm going to share my whole desktop just in case we pop out. So can you, no, we're not there yet. How about that? Now, can you all see that okay?
Yes, looks good.
All right, great. Excellent. Now I can't see the chat or anything. So if anybody has a question, if you just, you know, unmute yourself and ask, that would be great. All right. So this is what I'm going to cover tonight. Now, this talk kind of covers the 5 years, kind of up to where COVID hit. I am going to add a little bit on here about what we did in the COVID situation. And just to give you a data point, we've grown over 150 people since COVID began. And some of that was a result of the things that we did pre-COVID that made our club even more attractive in the terrible environment, unfortunately, that we have where we can't meet face to face. So I'm going to talk a lot about how to kind of reinvent your club, as well as some programs that work really well for us. So let's get into it. So just to level set, this is where we were in 2015. We had 35 members on the roster. I'm not sure how many of those were paying dues at that point, maybe 20. And if we got more than 10 at a meeting, it was a big event. Only major activity that we had at that point in time was field day. Now, the Nashua Radio Society has a long and rich history of field day. We once did a 22 or 24 alpha field day, I think. If you go back far enough in QST, you could probably find an article on that. I should have updated this. We're actually over 430 members as we sit today, and we're growing about 1 to 2 new members every week without really doing any recruiting. Our meetings typically run 50 to 60 people. We have a tremendous number of new hams. At this point, about 60% of our club is licensed less than 5 years. And that's actually a happy problem, but it does create some new problems. And I'll tell you a little bit about those and how we got there. We still do field day. It's still a big part of what we do, but we have a lot more in our portfolio than that. And the single thing that we did that made all of this happen is we decided to focus on the new ham, STEM learning in schools, licensing, and basically everything we could do to bring new people into amateur radio. Okay. So one of the first things we did is as I just said, we kind of formed exactly what we were trying to do. We kind of wrote that down in a mission statement. You can see what that is here. For us, it's all about bringing new people into the hobby, helping them develop their skills. We have a big presence in schools, which I'll talk a little bit about that. And that's important for several reasons. And we've stepped up the set of activities, particularly on the air activities considerably. And I'll share what those things are about. Now, it's pretty easy to write a mission statement like this, but I think one of the things that we did really well is we committed ourselves, as I like to say, we walked the talk. In other words, everything that we do or decide not to do centers around, does it fit into this mission or not? And whenever we consider a new program or a new activity or whatever, we always ask ourselves, is it aligned with what we're trying to do? One of the early things that we did that worked really well is we started teaching license classes, and I'll talk a little bit about how we do that. We grew to almost 100 members in less than a year in the initial move. And when it came time for the first election, as usual, as many clubs often experience, we have a tough time getting people to run. And the way we address that is we set over half of our board up from people who literally were not only licensed less than 5 years, but most of them were licensed less than a year. And that probably had more to do with kind of our accelerated path of reinventing ourselves than anything else did, because we had the people on our board that were in leadership roles that were new hams, and they could easily kind of help us pick out the activities that were going to appeal to the new hams, the people that we wanted to focus on. We also appointed Abby, who's the young lady in the t-shirt, the gray or black t-shirt with the pink lettering on it. And we made her a youth advisor to the board. Now, she was probably about, she was actually younger than 14 at the time we did that. She was probably about 13. And Abby was a great contribution, because when we wanted to do stuff with young people and schools, Abby had a wonderful way of telling us when we had it right and when we were way off base. And she also led a lot of the initial work that we did in those activities to get them off the ground. And you'll see Abby in action here throughout this talk. She was a huge asset to us. If I were to give you one thing that underpinned our ability to create all the programs that you're going to see, it's a very simple thing called learning to fail fast. Now, I don't know if any of you ever worked in a startup company, but if you did, you probably already know about learning to fail fast. So when you try to start a new company, you're usually trying to create a product or solve a problem or create a service that nobody else has ever done before. So there is no right answer. It's kind of like when you say, how do you get a whole bunch of young people to want to be amateur radio operators? I think the amateur radio community doesn't really know how to do that just yet either. And so here's how the failing fast process works. Whenever somebody has a good idea, you don't debate it, you don't study it, you find 3 people who are willing to try it, and you just go do it. And when you do it, you're going to get some things right, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And the mistakes are the most valuable thing you can do. If you're asking the people you're trying to help, kids, parents, new hams, existing hams, whoever they are, at the end, honestly, for what you got right and what you need to improve. And if you listen to that feedback and you do it again, and you do the second time you listen to the feedback, by the time you do it the 3rd or 4th time, you're probably going to have a world-class amateur radio program. A great example of where we use failing fast early on is when we tried to get ourselves involved with schools and young people. In a 6-month period, we did everything on this chart. We did a youth activities day. We had 3 people show up for that. We did youth days on the air at a soccer game. We had 2 people show up for that. We did a ham radio event at a local maker organization. That was better. We had about 15 people show up for that. Based on that following, we sponsored an entry for young people in the AR Rookie Roundup, and also had some of those folks participate in 13 colonies. There we started to get some traction. And along the way, we had a few teachers and some very active parents that were kind of following what we were doing. And at the end, when they saw how committed we were, that we were going to basically keep trying until we figured this out. And as we went, we kept creating better and better experiences for their kids and for them. They started to open doors for us in schools. And that pretty much led to a lot of the programs I'm going to talk about. So one of the things that's really important about this failing fast mindset is, you know, many of us, not all of us, are technical people. We're engineers. I'm an engineer. I'm an electrical engineer by training. And you get trained to work on a problem, analyze it, and optimize it, and create this perfect, beautiful thing. And what happens is that when you create that perfect, beautiful thing, after you invest sometimes months or more in doing it, if it doesn't work, you can't get away from it. So you're much better if you actually go off a little half-cocked when you're not so married to what the answer is, but you're just kind of a mindset that you're going to go look for it. Because that enables you to learn from the things that don't work, polish the things that do work, and actually get to a really good answer much, much quicker. We had a lot of people who helped us early on with a lot of our youth work. You can see we had several teachers, many of whom now are licensed. And of course, there's Abby down there, our youth advisor. And, you know, by getting these folks involved in some of the programs that we're going to talk about here, 2 things happened. First of all, because we were listening to them, they helped us not bring amateur radio into the schools, but create amateur radio activities that supplemented what the schools were already doing. And that's really the key to engagement in education. If you are a meaningful part, and by the way, I think this works for a lot of things. I think, you know, if you're interested in ARIES, if you can have this kind of relationship with an EOC, you'll find that you're a much more valuable partner and you have a much bigger role that you can play. So the key is to augment what the groups are that you're participating in and add to what they're trying to do through amateur radio. All right, so let's talk about attracting new and younger hams and how you go about doing that. Well, one of the things that you need to do, and I kind of learned this in my experience in business, is you need to focus on your customer and understand them. So who's our customer here? Well, it's certain, you know, we define younger hams as anybody under 40. And that's a pretty good working definition, I think, for most amateur radio situations these days. So how do these people decide what they want to do? Well, they're very tuned in to social media and the internet. And so if you don't have a strong dynamic presence on the internet, you're going to have a very tough time attracting those people, okay? Now, the way we do this is we have a very dynamic website. All of our members can write articles for the website. That's how we generate our newsletter. We have a big presence on Facebook, Twitter, and so on. I think we have over 1,000 followers on our Facebook page. And all of the activity on the website, which is where we generate all of our content, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like in a minute, all automatically gets pushed through to Facebook. So all 1,000 of our and some of our followers, and also to Twitter, see everything that's going on with our club. We're very geared towards photos and videos. We have a kind of a little bit of a trite saying that says, no activity escapes the Nashua Area Radio Society media team. We have folks who take pictures. We have other folks who will live stream activities to Facebook and so on, so people can follow us. Some of those live streams sometimes have 3,000 to 4,000 people view them. And of course, when folks can see what your club is doing and see people having fun, that's a big draw for new members. Okay. So just to give you some stats, we created this website ourselves using WordPress, probably about 3 months into our transformation. Today, we have over 580 user or member authored articles about all kinds of things, operating activities, things they built in their station. Our website takes about 400 views a day worldwide. It's actually become a worldwide amateur radio resource. When we publish a newsletter, we usually have 10 to 15 new articles that come right off of things that people wrote on our website. So we have plenty of content. And the other thing that we did is we created a forum, much like the QRZ or EHAM forums, that people use to communicate with each other. And one of our most popular forums right now is our mentoring forum. We used to call it the Elmering Forum, and where members will go in and post a question about something they're trying to do or whatever, and usually 3 or 4 other members will jump in and provide answers or offer help. We also do a tremendous amount of live streaming. And if you go to the N1FD or November 1 Fox Delta Facebook page and look at our videos, you'll see lots and lots of examples of the live stream. Most of our new members find us through our online properties. And the key to this is having the website. The website should never be the same 2 days in a row, because what that does is it gets your members and potential members constantly coming back to see what's new, and they get engaged with your group through your internet properties. And of course, then they'll more likely become members and be involved. And again, the key to this for us was to have the members be able to easily generate content on a regular basis on the website. Okay. So licensing was probably the first big program that we did now. And I'll tell you a little bit of story about licensing, but just to give you some stats, right now we teach 7 licensed classes a year. We teach tech, general, and extra classes every spring and every fall. And we teach at least 1 tech class that's geared for middle school and high school students, usually around the summertime when school isn't so busy for the kids. We've licensed or upgraded over 350. It's actually over 360 now. I probably should update this chart. And about half of those are new techs, the other half are general and extra upgrades. And our overall success rate, including general and extra, is 92.something%. So what that means is that 9 chances out of 10, if you sign up for even an extra class with us, you're going to walk away with your extra class license. We put a lot of energy into how we do these classes. There's a lot of live demonstration material. You can see in the lower right, I'm demonstrating a working computer-controlled satellite station as part of a tech class. That is also now possible to do over Zoom. So we really haven't, even though we're kind of hamstrung by COVID in terms of doing face-to-face stuff, we've simply figured out how to move either through recordings or by putting radio equipment actually on Zoom calls, how to move all that kind of live demonstration stuff we do over to Zoom. And that's really important. What we want to try and do, in addition to getting folks to pass their tests, we want to get them excited about some of the things they can do with their license when they get it. And so our demonstrations tend to heavily favor the kinds of things that a new tech, a new general, or maybe a new extra would be doing after they got their license or their upgrade. Now, Fred, I'll tell you, go ahead. You have a question?
Yeah, Fred, I know you teach your class relative to us rapidly.
Yes.
We take it 10 weeks and you do it over a weekend.
Correct.
Do you, or would you be accused of teaching to the test as opposed to radio historic content?
The number one goal we have when we teach a class is to do two things. We want the student to be successful, and particularly important that if they go and get on the air immediately after they get their license, they don't get themselves in trouble. And then the second thing is we want to show them enough about what they can do to get their license after they get their license to be excited about getting on the air. One of the problems is, and I've kind of widely correlated this, only maybe best case 20% of the people who get a technician license will be active and on the air after a year. And so if you're not careful in how you approach this, you can put tremendous energy into this work and basically not really get result in very many active new hams. Okay, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we solve that problem here next. But let me just give you a little bit of data. So when we first started out with this, we taught a first technician class over 7 Saturdays. There was a mindset that we were going to teach everybody in that class everything they needed to know about being a great ham. And we literally spent 4 hours for 7 Saturdays using the ARL books. And let me tell you what happened. We had a dozen people, all of them under the age of 40. There a few of them were high school age, along with their parents. By the end of the class, all but 4 had dropped out and only 2 passed, which is pretty dismal results. And so we stopped and we got a lot of feedback from those people. And they said, look, we got a lot of stuff going on with our kids and our families. We don't have the time to sit in a license class for 7 Saturdays. And the other problem was for the people that failed, by the time they got in the end, they'd forgotten most of the stuff that we tried to teach them in the beginning because they had no way to practice any of it. And so we stepped back from it. This is a great example of failing fast for us. And we said, okay, this is not going to work. We're going to need to do something different. So what do? We adopted Gordon West's system. We teach the classes in a weekend. It's 2 days for tech in general, 3 days for extra. So we go pretty deep into the material. And then we created a whole bunch of follow-on programs, which I'm going to talk about in the rest of this talk, that actually give these people the training and the skills when they have their license so they can actually practice what they're learning after the license fact. The second time we did a license class, we had 17 people in tech and we minted 17 techs. And the first extra class we did, we had 15 people in extra and we minted 15 extras. Okay. Now, I would encourage you to maybe sign up for and audit one of our classes and see how we do this. I think you're going to find that we do a lot more than just teach the answers. And we spend a lot of time with the folks trying to show them some things that they might want to be involved in, mostly operating activities, once they have their license. And then we have a whole series of programs, tech nights and other things to actually help them learn how to be amateur radio operators. It just does not work well for people to sit them in a classroom and try to teach them to be hams. It works much, much better if you can get them licensed, and then more importantly, stay with that person, elmer them and mentor them, help them get a station together, help them learn how to get on the air and really become great amateur radio operators. Now, we've licensed some pretty young people, and we continue to work really hard on developing what I'm going to call an age-appropriate technician class for kids that are kind of middle school age and higher. Some successes, Abby, who's, by the way, become an instructor down there, earned her extra class license at 13 years old. And Kenzie in the upper right there, very bright young girl, earned her extra class license at 10 years old. And I watched, I'll tell you a little story about this just to give you a feel that this is not all about memorization. If you all have done your extra, you will probably remember that there's a couple questions on there where you have to do an end-to-end effective radiated power calculation around a repeater system, which includes feed line losses, antenna gains, duplexer losses, and so on. And the calculations are all done in dB. Now, the way we handle these classes is we teach engineering rules of thumbs, not a lot of heavy formulas and math, so that people can kind of work their way through a lot of these problems without necessarily doing a lot of equations and so on. Kenzie, when those questions came up in a practice exam, which we kind of go through as we go in the license class, we saw her sitting there kind of computing in her head what the answer was. And of course, she came up with the right answer. And then we asked Kinsey, did you memorize that? And she proceeded to explain exactly how she had done the calculation properly. So the message I guess I would give you is, if you teach this material, and our classes are heavy demonstration and graphics content oriented, you actually can train people surprisingly without very strong technical backgrounds to do some pretty difficult stuff. So, at any rate, that's that. Hopefully that answers your question.
That answered the other thing I had. What was the motivation to stagger the classes? You do tech 1 month, then
yeah,
the next, and extra.
Quite frankly, we have lots of people that will take 2 or 3 right in a row. You know, somebody will come in and do a technician class, and they'll say, well, I really like this HF stuff, I want to do that. And we'll encourage them to come right back for their generals. We've had some people that go all the way through tech, general, and extra before they build a station. And we're actually okay with all of that because we have the follow-on training programs that will help them learn how to do the things that they want to do properly. And quite honestly, a license class is a pretty poor forum to try and teach that stuff. And here's why. If any of you have ever gotten, say, an extra class license, I'd be willing to bet that there was a certain non-trivial percentage of that material that you had to memorize to pass that exam. When you flood a ham in a class with a whole bunch of material that's probably relevant to what they want to do after they have their license, but not relevant to them getting that their license, you're actually setting them up to fail, because instead of allowing them to focus on the material for the goal at hand, which is to get that license or that upgrade, you're actually giving them so much information that they're not sure if they need to know for their test or not, that their probability of success goes way, way down. And that's what we saw in that first class that we did over a long period of time. We dumped so much information on those poor people that they couldn't possibly retain it all. They lost their confidence. And at the end, most of them either quit or failed the test.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
How many instructors do you have?
We have a pool of maybe a half a dozen people that teach these classes. In a typical one, we might have 4 or 5 instructors over the course of the 2 days that would teach the class.
Okay, that's
Most
what
of
I
us
need to know.
teach
We
multiple sections.
we do 2 per class. We run it for 10 weeks, so it's a different model. But it's interesting to see how that goes with you.
Yep. I would encourage you to try this format and see what happens. I think, especially if you're going to try to teach higher class license and even tech, I think you're going to find that you're going to have much better results, and that your students are going to be a lot more enthusiastic when they come out the back end. Because the stuff that you really want to put in front of them, if you're going to put material that goes beyond just the specific content on the exam, are examples of how you can do things that are related to the exam. So for example, when we teach a satellite section in tech, we actually fire up a satellite station and show it in operation, so that we give the student not only the answer, but we give them a firsthand feel for how the equipment works, and why Doppler correction and Keplerian elements and satellite tracking and all that kind of stuff is important, how it really works in a real contact. And when you do that kind of stuff, you do 2 things. First of all, the stuff makes sense to the student, and it's not a memorization exercise. It's something they've actually seen done. And then the second thing it does is it probably gets them really excited about maybe trying that when they have their license, which is really the biggest thing, particularly with technician licensees, that you want to be worried about, because so few of those will get active if all you do is license them and they walk away.
Fred, I have a quick question, please. I know you're trying to proceed, but
it's okay.
This is so important. The subject that you're addressing is so important. Now, I'm a student. I have no engineering background whatsoever. I'm surrounded by teachers and fellow club members that, have technical instincts. Yep. I do not. So I have gone through all the classes, but I'm frustrated because I still don't really understand what's going on. And so I wonder how you would advise me as an adult and someone interested. How would you approach this? How would you proceed if you were me?
Okay. So first of all, are you still working to earn your first license, or are you already licensed?
I'm already licensed.
And what level license do you currently hold?
I have an extra, but you know, again, I've got it, but I don't really know.
No idea what to do with it, right? Well, yeah, okay, I got it. So you need to find a great mentor and somebody who will help you figure out how you want to do something. Now, I'm an engineer, and you know, just to give you all a feel, when I got my license, I studied for tech in general, and I took a swing at extra and knew enough that I just passed extra. Even that saying, 70% of what that's on my extra exam, I would have to look up in a book. And by the way, I built wireless cellular systems, which is a pretty RF heavy career path. And I still don't have all that crap memorized. So I think it's a little unusual that they expect all of us to, you know, have that stuff at our fingertips. And in fact, real people who even try to use all that technical stuff don't have it at their fingertips unless they do it every single day. So what you need to do, find a good mentor. Well, first of all, decide what you're really interested in. Pick one thing that you want to do with your amateur radio license. And of course, everything is open to you at this point. And find a good mentor who will help you figure out how to go do that, help you pick equipment, help you get set up, help you learn how to operate. Those are the things that and by the way, you're not unusual, engineer tech or not. Everybody needs that kind of help. And the lack of that kind of help is the number one reason that only maybe 20% of the people who get a tech license ever do anything with it. So you are actually very much in the center of a really big problem that just about all folks in amateur radio have and should hopefully be trying to solve. And what I'm going to share with you next is some programs, one of which I think might work for you, that you can do that will help you, help you use that, all that work that you put into getting licensed. Okay. Licensing is a box to be checked. It's not a hurdle to be jumped over. It's the first step in becoming an amateur radio operator. In my mind, it's like, I kind of look at it like getting your driver's license. You know, even if you go to driver's school and you get a driver's license, you're probably not ready to go race in the Indy 500 when you get your license, right? You're going to need a lot of practice and a lot of training before you're really good at driving. Okay, matter of fact, a lot of folks, you got to wonder if they're really ready to drive hardly at all right after they get their license, right? And so the same thing applies with amateur radio. You know, you get a lot of theory, you get a lot of good knowledge and important stuff on the rules, but you really don't know how to be an amateur radio operator when you first get licensed. And I don't think any amount of classroom-only time can really address that. So let's move on and look at what you could do. So one of the things that we kind of do is we keep a lot of statistics and follow and do a lot of surveys and follow through with our class students to see how they're doing so we can learn what they need. And one of the things that we found is that almost only, in our case, 25%, we have a little bit more help available up front than most do. By the way, Gordon West and the league believe that that number is only 15% of the people who get a license, tech license, will ever be active. So I kind of split the difference between our number and those numbers. We created a program that's specifically designed to help people after they get a license to get active, get a station together, and learn to be on the air. It's called Ham Boot Camp. You may have seen it written up in QST. Again, this was a program that we created with a fail fast kind of approach. We piloted initially on the back end of our license classes with about, first one was about 6 people, the second one was 12 in my home. So we could learn what these people really needed for help and also see how well we could make it work. The 2 pilots had a conversion rate to about 65%, which meant that more than half of those people ended up being active after a year. Okay, so we actually know that this works pretty well. When COVID hit, we took it online. The first online boot camp was in the fall of 2020. We had about over 250 people sign up for that. And we thought, wow, that was amazing. And by the way, again, note how Zoom, being able to deliver stuff over Zoom actually helped us engage more people. We figured, well, let's do it again this spring, and maybe we'll get half that. When we did it in spring, we had 478 people register, including a significant, not a huge number, but pretty decent participation outside the United States. The kinds of stuff we do in here is really basic. We talk about how do you pick an HT and get a decent antenna on it? How do you put a mobile rig in a car? You know, we actually practice checking in, making simplex contacts and checking into a repeater net. We show people a little bit about fox hunting and satellites. For general, we actually show them how to put up a simple dipole antenna and put a basic HF station together. We get them on the air with a radio on Zoom and let them listen to a DX contact. We talk about how to learn CW and so on. So this is all pretty basic stuff. And I just want to show you something to give you, will probably surprise you a little bit. The pie chart here are the statistics from that last ham boot camp. What does it tell all of you that 60% of the people who signed up for ham boot camp, which is a very basic get on the air, had a general class, advanced class, or extra class license? What that tells us is that there is a tremendous need and demand for mentoring for hams that have already got their licenses, that just don't know how to go about getting started and getting on the air. So my message to you all is a simple one. If you truly focus on helping these people, and you can start right in your own club, it sounds like you've already got some members who would benefit from this kind of help. You will find that you will attract a lot of people around you that are looking for this kind of help, because there are tons of them. You know, if you believe that 20% number, and they say that's going on for 5 years, imagine how many technician class licensees or higher are out there that are just sitting there with a license, wondering what to do with it, that if you just engage them would probably become active hams. No need to license anybody or do any of that stuff. All you have to do is help them get on the air. Okay. All right. So how do you do that? How can you help hams of all ages actually get on the air? Well, one of our early programs that was really successful is something called Tech Night. And the way we created this is we had a brainstorm session with a lot of our members, including a lot of the new ones and the experienced ones. And we made a long list of everything that people would like to learn how to do in amateur radio. Some of it was pretty simple, like how do you build a J-pole? Or, you know, how do you get yourself set up to use digital on a repeater? Or how do you select your first HF antenna system? Some of it was really complex. We once did a tech night and showed people how to surface mount solder. We actually brought in all the equipment and let people practice. Some of that was pretty crude surface mount soldering, by the way, but we did have a lot of fun with it. These sessions are very interactive. You can see one of our members here put together a 2-meter Yagi that's built from, it's actually a Home Depot special. And what he does is he puts this antenna together piece by piece, and he's got a dipole with a light bulb on it in his hand here, and he shows how the directional antenna forms a pattern as you add elements, and then talks about, you know, basically how a Yagi works and how to go about designing a simple one. So some of this is pretty advanced stuff. We have a library with over 125 hours of these sessions. We've recorded them all. We hold one every month in addition to our membership meeting, where 1 or 2 members come in and they teach about something that they know how to do. Probably our most popular program of all. Many times our tech nights will attract more people than our membership meetings do. Okay. So if you go through a path where you make licensing a little less painful and then add programs like this to your repertoire, I think you're going to find that the end-to-end result with bringing new people to amateur radio is going to be much, much better, because the advantage of doing it this way is that by the time you get to the tech night stage, the people that you're trying to help already have a license. They go home and do the stuff you're teaching them about. And that's a much more powerful model than trying to teach it as a gateway to them even having a license when they really can't go and practice anything.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Are you going to at some point talk about how you fund all this?
Sure. I will be glad to do that. By the way, everything you've seen here so far, we don't really spend any money on. The license classes. We do charge a fee for, but we charge just enough so that we do a raffle at the end where we give away a book or a kit or maybe an HT. So we basically set our licensing class fees so that they're break even. And for Tech Night and so on, you know, if you're a member, and even if you're not a member, you're welcome to come to these. So no particular No particular money drain for either of the programs I've talked about so far, the way we run them. Okay. All right. A little more on young people. Young people are pretty busy these days, and the younger you get, it seems the busier they get. You know, I've seen high school kids whose calendars are busier than their parents. Also, many young families are working very hard and really struggling to balance time between their work life and their family life. But here's the good news. Social activities, learning valuable skills and self-improvement are still very much top priorities for young people. And so if you work to deliver amateur radio experience along those lines, and you do it in time compact chunks, you will find that it'll be much easier to engage what we call the under 40 crowd, and particularly their kids, in your activity. So I'll show you a few of these, but a Saturday activity that lasts a few hours, maybe a get on the air session, an entry in the rookie roundup, a fox hunt, where you're going to provide some tutelage. These are the kinds of things that will appeal to these folks. And what you're better off engaging them in 3 separate things to get them interested than one big thing, because the one big thing, most of those people will probably not have time for. Here's a couple simple things that we've done that are particularly good with young people and also new hams. The ARL has something called Kids Day. We usually, and Abby, by the way, again, our youth advisor, got involved in interested in amateur radio through Kids Day with her dad. And she helps us put on an activity for her friends. When we do Kids Day, we usually add a fox hunt. We'll play with Morse code. We'll let the kids play with satellites, something that's high tech. We might build some antennas. And then, of course, they get on the air and they contact other kids and have fun with it. Also, the ARL Rookie Roundup contests are great for this type of activity. And also very interesting to your new hams that are not necessarily kids. It's a chance to get involved in a beginner's low-pace contest and, make a lot of contacts, get comfortable with being on the air, get over mic fright, and have some fun with amateur radio. And, it's pretty easy to take a Saturday when this is going on and open your station up to new hams. You act sometimes as control operator and kind of guide them through the process, and they'll have a lot of fun. I'm going to show you a quick video of an ARL Rookie Roundup operator where Abby and her dad were involved and give you a feel for what this could be like.
Put the Kilo Echo. Put the Kilo Echo 0 station. Come again.
Echo 0.
Foxtrot, Mexico. QSL Kilo Echo 0 Foxtrot Mexico X-ray. This is November 1 Foxtrot Delta. My name is Abby, Alpha Bravo Bravo Yankee. 16 November Hotel. Could I get your name, your license, and state, please?
So you can see how that goes. And by the way, it's pretty exciting for the kids to get involved in operating an event like this. We usually live stream this stuff as well, so all their friends can see them doing it, and it's actually a lot of fun. It's pretty easy to do stuff in schools as well. We've done a whole series of projects and have pretty deep relationships with a number of local schools at this point. Most of them began with something really, really simple, like something called a pie night. A lot of schools, particularly middle schools, do these. They're like a STEM-oriented science fair that most schools will have a couple times a year. And they usually will welcome folks to come in and do some kind of technical display that has a STEM grounding. So what we do is we make a nice trifold board, kind of like you'd make for a science fair, that explains what amateur radio is and what you can do with it. We take some Morse code equipment in and let the kids do some simple exercises like sending their name with Morse code and trying to decode it. We have access to a remote head for the station here. And if the school has internet, we'll take that in there and let the kids get on the air with HF from the school. We usually hide a fox in the gym or someplace where they're cafeteria where they're having this, and let the kids chase the fox around and try to figure out where we hit it. What those activities do is they expose you to parents and teachers in a way that they can see that amateur radio provides a STEM learning opportunity that's practical for their kids. And if you do that consistently, and you're willing to engage the teachers and try to fit into what they're trying to do, maybe the next step is you'll be invited into an after-school club for a kit build. Or, you know, if you keep working at this, you will probably eventually get invited to teach class. Now, we work with a couple teachers in local schools here to create a whole 10-hour learning curriculum around putting together and launching and tracking a high-altitude balloon carrying amateur radio. And it includes a lot of physics stuff, how the jet stream works, conditions in the atmosphere, buoyancy, parachute dynamics. We even teach the kids how to file a flight plan. And the teachers absolutely love this stuff. One middle school actually takes classroom time out and gives us 2 hours once a week for 10 weeks, 1 hour of which is teaching the STEM learning part of this, and the other hour is taking the kids and doing an amateur radio activity. So we do fox hunts during class time. We do Morse code activities. We get the kids on the air with the remote stations. We do all kinds of stuff. So again, if you start in something that's kind of an extracurricular activity, demonstrate your commitment to quality learning that's an adjunct to what the school's already trying to teach, you eventually will find yourself in front of a classroom teaching school. And for us, the way this culminated, at least in one school, is I was actually invited by the principal of a local middle school to come in and teach an elective about amateur radio and wireless communications for credit. It was so popular with her 6th, 7th, and 8th graders that after we finished it, she asked me to create a second one. And we ran over 100 kids in that school through about 4 hours of classroom style training and demonstrations around wireless and amateur radio. So there is a lot of opportunity here if you kind of work at it a little bit. And I actually have 2 videos of things that we've done. And I'm going to give you again a choice. One is the high altitude balloon project that we teach. And the other one is, in my mind, one of the very best, although probably biggest projects you can do, which is to help a school make an amateur radio contact with astronauts on the space station. So I'll give you all the choice. Which video would you like to see?
ISS.
ISS?
By the way, we're going to do an ISS with the Hopewell Middle School. And
oh, great. Excellent. Who's your mentor? Do you know yet?
Yeah, Bob. I'm talking about Bob Benaki, I think his last name is.
Okay. Yep. I know Bob. So I'm also an ARIS mentor up here in the Northeast. And if I can convince my computer to play this video, I will play it for you. Hold on a minute. Here's my problem. I got something else covering it up. Hold on a second. Let's.
We did one in 2016 with the Science Museum.
Okay, great.
We've done 2 high altitude balloon chases, but the problem is that that's now been made illegal by state law.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's unusual. Haven't seen that
we're
anywhere else.
We're going to try and fight it, but we have to. Law unfortunately passed before we recognize it happened.
All right, let me see if I can get this video to go. If not, I'll get it off of another spot here and play it for you. My PowerPoint's being a little fussy tonight. I'm sorry about that. Well, if I have to, we're going to change the PowerPoint so we can play the video. Hang on a minute. No, it's not going to do it. All right, I'm going to go ahead, especially since you're interested in an ISS contact. I'm going to take just 1 minute here and get this video up for you so that you can actually see it. So just give me a second here. You get to see the car being worked on under the hood here a little bit. Radio videos, satellites, and ISS.
Everybody needs to pay good attention to this because I'm going to be wanting some more volunteers as we get closer to the ISS session this spring.
All right. So I'm going to show you now, when you do one of these things, as you know, there's a year-long education program that includes a lot of amateur radio stuff that leads up to this. You usually have a pre-contact program that lasts a half an hour, 45 minutes. And then the contact itself usually lasts 10 to 15 minutes. So this is all heavily edited. You're going to see a lot of this in about 5 minutes. And what I want you to pay attention to, in addition to the fun that's being had here, is look at the room that the principal addresses before the contact and think about the impact of having what are hundreds of parents, faculty members, and even the whole school board and the school superintendent being exposed to amateur radio as a STEM learning opportunity for their school. So here we go. This, in my mind, is one of the most impactful things that you can do to improve public awareness and support for amateur radio.
Hudson Memorial School, this is a very exciting and unique opportunity for us. Okay? This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. Once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the students of Hudson Memorial School to watch us make contact with astronauts from NASA in outer space on the International Space Station.
All right. As Mr. Bowen said, this is a truly unique event that you guys get to be a part of. And he did the welcomes to all the people that are here in the room. But I'm going to welcome all the elementary students that are probably watching us on live feed right now. The logo over to the far right is the Nashua Area Radio Society. They have been a huge part of this. Without them in this part, there would be no contact for you. The amount of hours, we probably can't even put together the amount of hours that the folks of this club put in to make sure that everything's happening. Also, they want to encourage and help people to become licensed and active in the amateur radio service. And you will see that over the course of the year, there are 2 students that are asking questions here that now have their amateur radio license because of them.
Has her extra.
1 minute to contact. The antennas are beginning to position. If you look at the video on the upper right of the screen, you can see the antennas tracking in on the ISS. November Alpha 1 Sierra Sierra, November Alpha 1 Sierra Sierra. This is November 1 Foxtrot Delta, over. Hi, hello Serena. This is November 1 Foxtrot Delta. We copy you fine. We've all been working very hard for about a year to prepare for this day, and we very much appreciate you taking the time to answer our questions. Are you ready for the students' questions? Over.
I am ready. Over. This is Ryan, KC1 KJS. What does it feel like when exiting the atmosphere? Over.
It's amazing. When our rocket lit and we knew those engines were going, we knew we were going somewhere really, really quickly, and it was the most amazing feeling to feel that thrust take that rocket off and last for about 8.5 minutes before we reached orbit. Over.
This is Kenzie, KE1NZY. How long have you been a licensed amateur radio operator, and do you use your license for any other communications besides ARIS? Over.
I've been a licensed radio operator now for probably only about 1.5 years in preparation for this space flight, and I've only had the chance to use it up here in the space station, and I've really enjoyed doing that, including just making random contacts across the United States and other countries. So I'm hoping to get to continue that after the mission. Over.
This is Abby. The students of Hudson Memorial School wish to thank you for talking with us today. Over.
Thank you, Hudson Memorial School in New Hampshire. It was fantastic talking with you. Have a great rest of your school year.
Thank you, Serena. N1FD clear.
All right.
If any of the
I gotta
parents...
tell you, every time I watch that video, I get goosebumps. So I've had the pleasure to be involved in about 10 of these now in different roles. And I've done 2 with local schools. One, I'm also an ARIS ground station and a mentor. So I've had the opportunity to be part of this in schools all around the world. So I'm really glad to hear you doing this. You will have a tremendous opportunity. Let me just get back to where I was here, sorry. To do all kinds of amateur radio activities during this, and you'll have a lot of interest amongst the students and support from their parents and educators afterwards to license the kids. So you'll be sure you want to take advantage of that. there's a lot of interest among young people in earning a license, but here more than anywhere else, it is critical that you teach this in a compressed format. It is virtually impossible to hold young people for more than a few days at a time. Now, when we do the summer license classes, we typically will spread them out over 3 days or so and interspace them with some activities like you're seeing kind of on the side here. We're tuning a buddy pole and remote HF setup and that kind of stuff, doing fox hunts, just to kind of make the mental load on the kids be a little more reduced. It's also important to adjust how you teach the material so that you de-emphasize a lot of heavy math and technical stuff and kind of bring in more, and this is actually good for older hams too, more sort of engineering rule of thumb approaches to solving the problems that you encounter on a license. We all very much encourage our new people to be licensed instructors. What better person to have in front of a bunch of young people trying to get a license than other young people? Makes them feel like they're joining a group of folks that they're, that's kind of more like them, I guess is what I would say. And of course, Abby, who seems to manage to do everything in this club, is also a licensed class instructor. Okay. It's also very, very important to constantly be creating new things. And, if you have this kind of fail fast mindset, as soon as somebody has an idea, our approach is, let's get 3 people to raise their hand that they want to go do something, and we'll try it and see how popular it is and learn from it. Some things lead us down totally different roads. Some things become really successful programs. Some things we just decide, you know what, we thought that was a good idea. It's not going to work out. Let's do something else. But the key thing is to constantly be trying new things. So here's a few things that we've done. We do a lot of activations of parks, sodas, and that kind of stuff. We have Mount Washington, which is a pretty high peak, and a whole bunch of sort of intermediate peaks here in New England. So we do a ton of that stuff. It's pretty popular. Field day is a big deal for us. We typically will draw 40 or 50 people to do one of our field day activities between building our stations, putting up the towers and all that kind of stuff, and then operating it. Kit builds are very popular. We haven't done too many of those since COVID hit, but as soon as we can do them in person safely again, we're going to start them up. And fox hunts are great. One of our members of the club owns a set of foxes. We'll put them out in a local park or someplace on the weekend. Everybody could go out and chase them. At Christmas time, we put candy with the fox, so you get a little bit of a treat when you find it. And of course, we have lots of pictures with members holding candy. But what I would say more than anything else is, as your club really starts to grow and get more active, is keep it fresh. I always say that if you're not doing new things, then you're declining. So, the number of activities that you can get involved in are almost endless. And as you begin to attract new hams, you will find that you have a huge base of people who want to do stuff. Sometimes in amateur radio, we kind of get to a point where we tried everything we want to try, and there's a certain set of things we like to do, and we kind of end up doing mostly that and not much else. But one of the cool things about having a lot of new people, especially relatively newly licensed, whether they're young people or adults, is they haven't seen it all and done it all. And many of them will be those other 2 people that somebody experienced in your club need to go ahead and start a new activity. Some of these folks will develop pretty quickly. Abby there is an example, was the top sideband operator at our last field day. She pretty much beat out all the experienced people out because she simply has better skills and operates harder. Now, she's a very, very dedicated ham, but what we find is that the new folks end up becoming, if you focus on them and encourage them to be this kind of the center of your group, will become some of your top operators and your most active hams as you go forward. Field day is one activity where we make our new and inexperienced hams and young people the star of the show. We have basically an unwritten rule at field day that all of the new folks get the first shot at taking all the best operating slots, and only when they don't want anymore do the experienced folks step in and take the rest. And this has actually served us well. Now, we do pretty big field day. The last in-person one before COVID was an 11 alpha field day with 4 towers. And we had something interesting going on there. We had KC1XX, who's one of the top 5 contesters in the world, came in with 3 or 4 of his top CW operators, and they kind of dominated the CW stations. Abby, her brother, and a bunch of people who had only been licensed for like 3 months to general ran the FT8 digital stations, and they got a little competition going back and forth. And Abby matched the score of 3 of the best CW operators using FT8 with her friends and the new hams in the club. And Abby was so dedicated, and her friends were too, that they basically 2 of them operated all 5 of our digital stations. They just took turns from computer to computer and went anywhere between SO2 and SO3R and ran 5 bands solid all night long. So the other thing I want to share with you is that it's also really important to showcase the work you're doing with younger people to the general public. We actually had a regional TV station come in and cover our field day. And I want you to see how they portrayed amateur radio to probably what were several 100,000 people here in Massachusetts and New Hampshire.
While practicing for a possible emergency.
Next at 6, how these amateur radio operators are getting ready for any disaster.
Amateur radio operators across the country and Canada set up radio equipment this weekend for an event called Field Day.
And while it is a contest, it's also a chance for operators to practice their emergency response capabilities so they're ready to provide communications if a disaster strikes. Dozens took part at Hudson Memorial School, working completely off the grid, simulating a real emergency.
What we've taught some of the kids in the school here about is how you actually track and talk and do communications through a satellite in space.
One of the main things we like to do is really further the education of STEM curriculum in local schools. This has been a partnership with the Hudson Middle School.
Tango, Radio Tango.
Trained some as young as 12 years old. That is incredible. Good for them.
And they actually started setting up yesterday. They went 24 hours. So in that kind of unsettled weather that we had, they were still going. So wow. Pretty impressive.
So again, if you put your young people and newer hams first, and you can get those activities in front of the general public, you do a service much bigger than just bringing new people to amateur radio. And the ISS Contact will be another good activity to build some great public support and awareness for amateur radio. When we try to get laws passed that protect our rights to put antennas up, we try to convince the FCC not to take our spectrum away or to spend energy on prosecuting folks that are causing interference or doing malicious stuff on the air. Public support is essential for success in all those activities. And by basically making the newer folks in your group, and particularly anything you do in schools, a showcase for amateur radio, you do a tremendous amount of good for solving those problems. All right, I'm almost to the end here. So somebody asked about money and how we fund some of these programs. One of the things that we did, I think about a year and a half or 2 years in, is we became a 501c3 nonprofit, mostly because we were raising so much money for some of the programs that we had already started, like the high altitude balloon work and our kit builds in schools and other things, that we felt like we needed to get ourselves kind of in the right space from a tax point of view. This number is way low. That we probably raised closer to $50,000 now. I haven't updated that in a while. It's at least 45. What you'll find is that when you do this type of work on a consistent basis, that lots of folks will want to contribute money. We also do things like Amazon Smile. We've had several charitable foundations that routinely make modest contributions, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 at a time to the work that we do. And, you know, for us, having the funds to do the work we do has never really been a problem. And I think I mostly can contribute that to the fact that we've been pretty committed to our work. So with that, I know it's getting kind of late. I'm going to kind of wrap this up. So what does it really take to do this? Well, you got to decide what you want to be, and you got to stay focused on those goals. We've done a lot of work to modernize how our club approaches things, particularly with things like the internet. how we teach, how we train. We're pretty passionate about amateur radio. Hopefully some of that came through here tonight. And we are really, really committed to mentoring, teaching, coaching, and helping others to learn and enjoy amateur radio. I did promise that this talk was about the road to the Club of the Year, so I'm going to just say a little bit about that. Now, we went from almost a train wreck to Club of the Year in about 4 years. And it was a pretty amazing journey and transformation that we went through. And I can tell you that while it was really neat to be at Dayton and, you know, receive the award, the Arrow had a nice place for us in their booth. It was an amazing recognition. There's nothing that compares to the experiences that we had as a group in getting there. And, you know, if I had to trade the award for those experiences, I'd give the award back in a heartbeat. You know, the things that you will experience when you see amateur radio happen for a young person or a new ham, to me, it was like the first time I did it. And, you know, I just feel like that if I do nothing else, and I've been pretty active ham, I've made over 100,000 contacts in the time I've been a ham. So I've done a lot on the air too, and built a pretty big station and all that stuff. But to my mind, there's nothing more rewarding than doing this kind of work. And what you'll find is if you truly engage in it, you will have no problem getting younger members in your club, and you'll have no problem raising money or having plenty of people who want to do stuff to support these programs. It takes a little bit of work to get started, but once you get the ball rolling, you know, you almost have to, the hardest problem is basically to not have the snowball of all the things you started run over you, because there'll be a lot of interest and a lot of people who want to get engaged in those things. So at any rate, that's the presentation. I hope you found something in there that was fun or helpful or interesting to you.
Fred,
and just wanted to see if y'all had any questions or comments or thoughts on any of this stuff.
Yeah, Fred, I have a question.
Yeah.
Because of our age and whatnot, and generally, we do not have anybody that has a lot of knowledge about how to interface into social media. So did you guys face that same problem, or did you luck out and have somebody in the club, or did you go third party, or?
Here's what I would tell you about how that worked. If I were to kind of paint you a timeline, the first thing we did is we got our licensing right so that it worked for young people. And in the first 6 months, we probably had 30 to 35 new members that were under the age of 40. And that's where the resources came from to solve those kinds of problems. Okay. Now, when you do that, I'd strongly encourage you to create something like a tech night to go along with your licensing. When you shorten up the licensing, you're going to have a lot of new hams, and you need to have something for them to help them figure out how to get on the air right after they get their license. Because the longer the time you let lapse where they don't do anything, the bigger the chances are they're going to lose interest and never do anything. So if I were to give you kind of a cookbook to do this, get your licensing classes age appropriate for younger people, shorten them up, go with a weekend route, make them demonstration heavy, make them fun. You'll find that most folks under the age of 40 will not have any trouble at all engaging with you for a weekend. And then create a tech night program or some kind of demonstration oriented mentoring program where you do simple stuff. Show people how to pick and program an HT. Get together in a round table with a bunch of folks with HTs on a simplex channel on 70 centimeters that nobody uses, and practice checking into a net. Find somebody to get a Fox Hunt transmitter and hide it in a local part, and let all your techs go out and chase after it and find it. Do a tech night on radio direction finding. If you build a simple program like this, I would be amazed if you didn't find yourself with 30 new members who were on the younger side of your demographic. That would be something you could start to build around. That's what we did. So hopefully that answers your question.
It did. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, Fred, this is John DeMaio. One of the things that I was interested in, this situation that we have with the ISS and the school that we're working with, that's an unusual thing that came up, and we have a teacher that's dedicated to, to making this happen, and the particular school's working well with us. It's a school board in a small town. Virginia is kind of funny. We have cities and we have counties, and the counties don't mess with the cities and vice versa.
Right.
That is a small city. It has its own school board. We've tried to get into the City of Richmond public schools and the Chesterfield County public schools, which are two of the bigger operations here in this part of Virginia. And basically what they told us was, we already have our curriculum set. This is not part of what we're going to teach. You all are not union teachers, and we're not going to do this. So how do you all get around that?
All right. So by the way, that school that we did the contact with, as well as one of the other ones, the kids, both public schools, both exactly the same as what you face. So how do you do that? You have to have the mindset when you approach a teacher at the school to say, what are you teaching and how can we give you some practical applications for what you're teaching? This is not about taking amateur radio in the school and teaching amateur radio. This is about offering amateur radio to teachers in the school as an adjunct and tailoring it to support the material they're trying to teach and reinforce it. Again, offer to demonstrate what, first of all, I would get a couple of those teachers that in those public schools and invite them to participate in some of the stuff you're doing with the ARIS contact in the smaller schools. Let them see what amateur radio can be like. And particularly on the day of the contact, if you can have a few of those people in the room and let some of the teachers in the school that you work with successfully, let them be your advocates. Now, again, I can't stress enough that to engage, especially in public schools, you have to position amateur radio and tailor what you do so that it fits into other things that they're trying to teach. Now, by the way, once you start to do that successfully, you will have tremendous influence on what they're teaching. But if you go in and you say, I'm going to come in and I'm going to teach your kids about amateur radio, they're probably going to say, we don't want to do that. That doesn't fit. But if you go in and say, hey, are you teaching anything about radio waves or wave tech stuff? Are you doing anything with electronics? Do you have a STEM club? And try to talk to the people that are doing those things and see if you can and kick around some ideas for activities that might use a bit of amateur radio to supplement what the kids are already trying to learn. That's how you can get started. Also, STEM nights, pie nights in schools. Some schools have career days where they'll invite a professional in to talk about, what they do. I've done a ton of those where I basically come in and talk about what it's like to be an electrical engineer and how amateur radio got me started in it. And maybe I'll do a little amateur radio demonstration for the kids and spend some time, form a relationship with the teachers, the principal, if you get some time, any of the parents who might be there. That's how you get yourself in the door.
Thank you. That's some great information. I see we got our work cut out for us.
Yeah, you got to stay at it. By the way, here's a place where the fail fast mindset will help you a lot. It's really easy to go into one situation and have it not work out and say, oh, we're never going to do it. These people are just not thinking about this the right way. Let's give up. But what you really need to do when that happens is get some honest feedback and ask the people, well, go a little deeper. Tell us why, this doesn't work for you. Tell us what we might be able to do that would reinforce what you're doing and try to get some feedback. Then go try it again. You might fail 3 or 4 times till you hit on the right combination, but you know what's going to happen? Some of the parents and the teachers that are around you, when they see you keep trying, and if you're dedicated to truly providing a quality education experience, they will eventually open the door for you. And so those failures are ways that you can demonstrate that you're really committed to making something important happen for their kids.
Thank you very much.
Yep, you're welcome. Other questions or comments?
I've got a question. Which part of the school did you find that was more enthused? Would it be math, science, or maybe even music?
What I tell you is, I'll give you a couple pieces of data. Grade ranges, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are your sweet spot. Much easier than high school kids. They don't have as many social and after school commitments. They're not as heavy into sports and other things. They're looking around for what their life interest is going to be pretty solidly at that age. They're easy to influence and they want to have fun. Now they can be a little bit of a handful to work with, so you got to have some patience. But you know, that story I told you about the principal who invited us in to teach, the initial round was a whole range of kids, including some older than that we engaged with. And they finally came back and said, you know, your sweet spot, the principal told me this, your sweet spot is the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. Let's focus the elective on them. Let's focus it at the level that will appeal to them. And, you know, I found that getting kids in that age range, technician and even general class licenses, if you teach the classes properly, and again, the weekend format's going to be essential because you're not going to get that much time from those kids for a 10-week class. It's also very doable to license them through general. It's not hard to do that at all.
And by the way, our ISS thing is a middle school, 6th grade middle school science.
You've got a perfect platform there to launch all this stuff off of if you want to do that. By the way, just as an idea on your ISS thing, I'm working with a school in northern New Jersey right now that just did a great activity in a middle school setting I want to share with you. They had a 1 week long, it was kind of an amateur radio summer camp. The teachers ran it. They did electrical circuits. They played with Morse code. We took hidden radio transmitters and HTs down there. We did fox hunts. They built electric motors. I had a remote HF station in there, and they made DX contacts, talk to people all over Europe and the Middle East and Africa. They had somebody come in with a drone that was wirelessly controlled, and they flew it. We had books of QSL cards, and the kids basically sat down in front of the web browser, picked out cards, and went on cureZ.com and tried to learn about the people whose card they were looking at and see, you know, what was going on. They also did that with their DX contacts. They took a dipole and hung it up on their flagpole and hooked it up to a KX3 and made some contacts. They did a handheld satellite contact. And the best part is on Friday, all the kids' parents came in and the kids showed them what they'd done with amateur radio for the whole week. So I don't know how many of those kids will get licensed, maybe 3 or 4 out of 30. But I know we have 60 parents now in northern New Jersey who would support anything that went on in that community that would be a benefit to amateur radio. And so one of the things that you need to understand with the work in schools, it's not really about licensing a whole bunch of new hams. You're going to do some of that, but what you probably will certainly do is you're going to inspire some young people to pursue technical careers, and you're going to do more for public positive support and awareness for amateur radio than you can possibly do anywhere else. And for those reasons alone, it's well worth the work. You know, there's a lot of stuff out there that says we should just focus on hams who are 40 to 50 because they're going to, you know, buy equipment and operate on the air. And there's a place to do that. But there's also a really important role that we need to play with young people in schools, especially in front of parents, teachers, school board people, and so on. And it's not an either or in my mind, it's a both. Other questions or comments or thoughts on this?
Brad, what is a fox hunt and how in the world do you accomplish a license training in a weekend?
All right, so I'll take the easy one first. So what's a fox hunt? The technical name for it is radio direction finding. You have a small, low-powered, usually 2-meter radio transmitter that emits Morse code and a call sign. You hide it somewhere, and you take a bunch of HTs, sometimes with directional antennas that many of those you can make yourself from a tape measure. And you basically go and find that hidden radio transmitter. It's kind of like geocaching with a radio. And the best part of it is, since the people doing it don't transmit, you actually don't need a license to do it. It's a great activity to do in a school because all the kids can, you know, you take the HTs, you shut the transmitters off, and you teach them. When we do it in a schoolyard, you know, the fox is never more than a few hundred yards away. They can hunt that fox just fine with an HT set up right and a rubber duck. They don't even need a Yagi. And, you know, usually we'll end up rehiding the foxes 3 or 4 times because after the kids find them once, they want to do it again. It's a great activity to do in a school. And, you know, it's a great activity for your club as well. For the folks that have techs, you know, go out, the club gets a fox, somebody hides it in a park somewhere on a weekend. You send an email out to everybody saying the fox is loose. Here's the frequency. Go find it. And, you know, everybody can pick a few hours out when they have time and go chase after the fox and have a lot of fun with it. It's a great activity and it's inexpensive. I think you could purchase a commercial Fox, pretty nice one, for about less than $100. Now, the second question is, how do you teach a license class in a weekend? Here's how we do it. We use Gordon West books, first off, which are, when you look at those books, they basically, for each question, they have a couple paragraphs and a diagram where they explain the answer. So it's not just a memorization type of deal. We also have open book homework that we give the students. Most of them don't do it. Some do. Most do a little bit of it, and we don't collect it. But we try to encourage them to go through the book and at least read through it one time before they get to our class. When we teach the class, we have a set of PowerPoint slides that cover each question that could be on the exam. And many of them have recorded videos and demonstrations in them. So in addition to just saying a whole bunch of text, we always have a picture or ideally a video or graphic demonstration where we can show people, you know, what it is they're learning about. And then we go through each section in the book and explain it that way. And then we have what we call a lightning round, where we go back and we do just the questions, and like they'll be on the test, and we have each student take a turn answering a question. What does that do? First of all, it keeps the students interested and active because they know they're going to have to answer questions right after we teach the material. Okay, so they pay attention. And secondly, they build confidence that they actually can answer the question successfully. And the lightning rounds work pretty surprisingly well. It's fairly unusual that more than one or two questions in a given section get missed. Okay. What I'm going to do here, for a second here, is I'm going to bring up an example of one of our sections for a license class. And I think I'm going to do Talk to Outer Space. And I'm just going to let you see what this material looks like, since I know you're kind of interested in this. So this is an example. I'm just going to go through this really fast of how we teach the space section. This is about satellites. So you can see, you know, we're covering here, what's the definition of a space station? And again, very much graphics oriented so people can see what we're talking about. What frequencies are on the ISS? And here's an example of something you can do, receiving slow scan TV. We show what a satellite is. We talk about low Earth orbits. And again, everything has pictures and graphics to it. We talk about satellite tracking programs. This is actually a video where we show one in progress. I'm not sure if it's going to play for me. No, it's not, unfortunately. But if I could play this, you would actually see a computer-controlled satellite station being operated here. We actually have live recordings of satellite contacts and stuff. So when we teach the material, we don't just make it a memorization exercise. We try to explain everything. We try to make as much of it demonstration-oriented. Yeah, none of these links are going to work in here. As we can, we show videos of making live contacts. We show telemetry and all the stuff that you would really need to understand to actually understand the questions. Then we do the lightning round, where we go through and each student takes a turn, and this isn't going to work either, so I'm not going to try, answering the actual questions. And typically we'll have everybody pass, or maybe in an extra class, one person won't pass. It works really, really well. And again, the live demonstrations are in there to both, and the graphics to illustrate and get people a visual model of what they're learning about. And also we're in an activity like satellites, where we know that, you know, there'll be a certain segment of the tech group that might really want to do that. We actually show them a satellite station in operation. When we do these things in person, we actually set it up on site and let them make their first satellite contacts in the class. So it is quite a bit of extra work, maybe, to teach a class in a weekend like this. But if you do it right, I would bet you that I could put the hams that have been 6 months away from earning their tech up against anybody else's license activity. And the hams that go through ours are going to have a lot more practical knowledge and be able to explain things that they learned. It's not about how much time you spend, it's how you teach it, I think, that really counts. We do offer these classes online via Zoom now. We also test via Zoom. And, you know, you could probably do that kind of activity too if you built a class like this. So I hope that gives you some feel for how we do it.
Anybody else have questions?
By the way, if you all wanted to sit in on one of our classes in the fall and just see how we do this, I'd be happy to arrange that. You can see actually first, and you'll have to invest a whole day Saturday and 3/4 of a day Sunday. Or if you want to do extra, you're going to have to invest a Friday too. There's too much material there to get it all done on a weekend. It's a long weekend. But, we have lots of people that we've licensed to extra that are not engineers. And we also pride ourselves on a calculator-free extra exam, if you can imagine that.
We may
Anybody
just want
else?
to take you up on that.
Yeah, definitely. Just drop me an email, ab1oc@arl.net. Actually, drop my wife, ab1qb@arl.net. She's the one that coordinates our license classes, and she let her know that who you are and that you want to audit, and we'll get you going.
Thanks a lot.
Yep. Any other question? I know it's getting kind of late.
Okay, well, I've got to tell you, this is one of the most informative and useful things that we've had in a while. I really thank you for coming and talking to us tonight.
Well, it sounds like you're already doing some great work. Try and focus on new people, and particularly really take the best advantage of the work you're already doing in schools and build on that. And I think you'll find that, if you want to get more folks into your club, and maybe some folks that are on the newer side of the ham experience, if you really take this stuff to heart, I don't think you're going to have any trouble at all. And if I can help in any way, you know how to find me now. I'm pretty much devoting my whole retirement to this kind of work because I think it's really, really important.
Fred, I want to thank you. And I attended one of your boot camps, and the satellite contest, or the contact that you did in the class, and the practice on a repeater. I thought that was phenomenal for the class. I mean, you brought it right to the people.
Yeah. By the way, we are going to be doing another boot camp in November. If you go on n1fd.org and under, I think, the third menu or so, you'll find Ham Boot Camp. You can sign up. It's free. And, we were going to add a section on FT8. We've also added the section on learning Morse code. So there's probably a little something there for a lot of you folks if you'd like to attend that.
Would you say the website again slowly?
Yes, it's November 1 Fox Delta, or as we like to think of it, number 1 Field Day, .org. And I'll just real quickly here show you where it is. So make it real easy for you. So here's our website. The Ham Boot Camp piece is right here under our activities. And if you go down through here now, I'm in the kind of logged in version, so I'm going to see some content here that you probably won't. But here's the agenda for the online one. And it's November 13th, all day Saturday. You can click right here and sign up. And also, if you're interested, just to give you a little chance to look around, here is all of those online articles that our members write. I think there are over 500 articles in here on just about anything you can imagine. So I'd encourage you to check that out. And you can see about our tech nights and what we do there. We do offer a type of membership here that's available to people outside our area. And at this stage, I think of our 430 members, 260 of them are in New Hampshire or Massachusetts. And that would mean that there are about 180 or something, if I'm doing the math right, that are in states that are outside of our area. So if you all would like to take advantage of our training platform, sign up as an internet subscriber and you'll have access to all of our Tech Night content, including all the videos of those sessions and the PowerPoints. And also, lastly, I'll just show you our Elmering forum real quick. It's now our mentoring forum. We decided that mentoring, you can see the Q&A that's going on in here with our members around all kinds of issues that they're trying to help each other with. So give you some idea of how maybe if you want to evolve your website to be a little bit more of a training resource, that at least here's one way to do it. And we did create this. I basically built this website myself over the course of about 4 or 5 years. Although the initial version of it, a funny story, our board had a big debate whether it was a good idea to do a website or not. So the way I redo the websites, the way I did it is I went and built a prototype in 2 hours and took it in, and it actually looked a lot like this. It just didn't have all the content on it. And everybody was so enthused about what it could do and how it could work. I actually wrote an article in real time in the board meeting and posted it. And that's all it took to sell the group on redoing the website with WordPress. So at any rate, I don't want to wear out my welcome too much. Does anybody have anything else before I leave you be for the rest of the night?
Thank you.
Yep. Go out and make something great out of that ARIS contact in your licensing work. And I think you'll all be well on your way. And by the way, when you become Club of the Year, if you do all this stuff, the only thing I ask is you invite me to your dinner at Dayton.
We will do that.
I want to clap for you.
We will.
All righty.
Thank you very much.
Folks. Thank you all very much for the opportunity to be with you tonight. I really enjoyed it. I hope I'll see you again soon. 73.
73. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, everybody. I guess that ends our program for tonight, and we'll go ahead and close the meeting. Well, the meeting's closed, but we'll go ahead and close the session out if nobody has anything else. Well, thank you all again. And
Thanks, John.
Yeah, go ahead. Somebody want to say something?
I was just saying thank you. This was a great program, and we're so close. We got really strong, devoted teachers. We just need maybe some new ideas about how to corral people like me who need a little extra help. So thank you all.
Oh, we're gonna definitely get a brainstorming session together, and if you want to participate with us, we'd be glad to have you and your advice in the session. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Y'all going to keep it open for a little bit, or you're going to close it out?